What's up, Playground? It's me, Shanila, and welcome back to your Shadow Work series, where we're going into the ins and outs of the shadows, all the parts of you that you don't want to look at, but probably should if you want to be a little bit more healthy in all the ways. So we made it all the way to episode 14. If you are listening on with this series, definitely screenshot this episode and tag me on Instagram at shanila.satar and let me know what it is that you're taking away from the series so far. So we made it all the way to episode 14, which is about the fear of being seen. Now, this might sound a little familiar because have we talked about this on the podcast several years? Have we been talking about this? The answer is yes, but we're going to break it down in the realms of how it relates to shadow work. And when you listen to the trust wound, the neglect wound, the abandonment wound, and the guilt wound, you'll understand how the fear of being seen kind of dances among all of those wounds. But today, the way that I want to break down the fear of being seen is about the shadows of visibility and vulnerability. Because raise your metaphorical hand if you have a fear of being seen. If you have a fear of being judged, you think that somebody is like always judging you, and when you are perceived, it feels really icky. So you feel like you need to wear a mask. You have to like build a character. You feel like you need to, do what you think this character should do and think how this character should think. And there's something like really inauthentic about it, but perhaps you think that's the only way to your success. And whatever success you mean, whatever variation of success you want to take it as, there's a part of you that feels like if I do this, then I will get what I want. Okay, that's the definition of success here. So success could be if I do this, then I'm going to have more clients in my business. Or if I do this, then I'm going to have more friends. If I do this, then I'm going to have more relationships or partnerships or opportunities or, a better chance at getting this raise at work, right? Like whatever context you want to apply the success ideology to, that's what we're talking about. Now, everybody should have raised their hands. You know what I mean? Because like, do I know a single person who does not have the fear of being seen? The answer is no, because there's this is a very human thing that any of us are experiencing. But here's where this fear of being seen can be a little tricky, which is that many people who have incredible gifts to share, especially if you are somebody who's an artist, you have something that you want to create into the world, whether it's music or writing or thoughts or whatever it is that you want to share out into the world, you're actually afraid of your success. You're not afraid to fail. You're actually afraid to succeed, which is like such a weird thing to experience. Like, what's going to happen if I succeed? I'm going to get exactly what I dreamt of, and I'm going to get exactly what I wished for and exactly what I was desiring and manifesting and scripting about, and all these vision boards on all of these things that I journaled about. I have it. And actually, I'm terrified of that. I'm terrified of actually being successful, because that means that I need to have an identity shift. Now, put a pin in that language, because I'm going to make another episode that talks about identity shifts. But the fear of success really has to do with the identity that you have of yourself on the path to success and what it means on the other side. So in simpler words, what that means is that, say, for example, you believe that if you're successful, you have to become this capitalistic, a fat, bald guy with like belly button hair and a receding hairline, and you're just like eating the poor. You're kind of just like extracting all of these resources from poor people, and you're this like, big conglomerate, like monopoly that, controls everything. And maybe that is like the version of success that you have in your head when you think about like a successful entrepreneur, which is such a wild thing to do and a wild thing to even like attach yourself to, because you have none of those identity variables, but you somehow see yourself in that identity, that if I were successful, then all of a sudden I would become this character that is like very unlikely, but somehow my physical body, my nervous system is projecting that as my reality. Okay. And if you think it in this like dramatic example, there's a part of that, not of that path, that is non-dramatic, that you might actually be subscribing to. So you might think that if I become successful, then that means like all my friends are going to leave me. Or if I become successful, then I have to sacrifice everything. Or if I become successful, then fill in the blank. There's this kind of storytelling that happens in your fear of being seen, that you kind of make up these stories of like what you think the reality of yourself is on the other side. So that feels closer to you than this like example of this like completely unrecognizable identity that I just gave you with the belly button hair on the other side. Like that feels like haha dramatic, but like the example is parallel. You're not becoming something or someone that is like completely outside of yourself just because you have a little success in whatever component that you want to identify success as, right? However it is that you want to define that. So the shadow of visibility is the fear of being seen, yes. And go back to, our shadow episodes about trust wound, abandonment wound, neglect wound, and talking about our guilt wounds, all of those kind of things. But visibility also feels like stepping into an unwanted spotlight. Like there's this belief that your success equates you to not having your privacy or not having your time or not having your, luxuries of the things that you want to have time for and energy for and things that you want to give attention to. So there's kind of this like self-sabotaging behavior that happens, like you're already fucking up the actions that you could take for the success that you specifically want, but you're kind of almost afraid to like let go of the things that you have in your presence that you want to hold on to. So an example of that is entrepreneurship. Many people are success scared in entrepreneurship. So it's not about having more strategies and more resources or more. It's really about shifting the identity and the fear of being perceived, the fear of being seen, the fear of visibility, the shadows of visibility. And so this entrepreneur, let's just make up like a entrepreneur who's wanting to start their business, or they have already started their business. They're maybe a coach or a healer. They take clients, they help people through, whatever it is that they help them through, maybe like, better eating habits or better mental health. I don't know. Just think about an example that might fit there. But then this person says like, well, if I get too many clients, then I'm not going to have time to go rock climbing, which I really love. I love to go, 4 days and be at the rock climbing, but now I have too many clients. So now I can't do rock climbing anymore. So the energy and the attitude that this specific entrepreneur is coming into their business is like, there is a sacrifice. There is something that I have to exchange in order for me to get the thing that I want, which is I want to have more clients, but I'm sabotaging my ability to have these clients because I feel like I need to sacrifice the time that I'm going to spend doing something that I really love. Now, the identity shift comes from really being able to understand that yes, there might be temporary sacrifices. This is very true for any kind of entrepreneurship, but you also have to look at, is what I'm getting on the other side worthwhile for me to have in order for me to not go 4 days rock climbing, and maybe I could narrow it down to 2 and I still get what I want. And once I have this momentum in my business, I'm able to increase the things that are more joyous and enjoyable in my life. And that's just called compromise. It's not a sacrifice. It's called a fucking compromise. That's like moving in with your husband, like living with your husband. It's like, well, you're compromising the way that you're like running around the space that you both share. It's not a sacrifice to live with your husband, or it's a sacrifice. It could be, you know what I mean? If it truly is, then maybe get a different house, but there's certain things that you're like more into, like the outcome is more valuable to you. Like the fact that you have a partner, the fact that there's somebody in your home, the fact that you have this loving relationship, the fact that you share time and space and energy together, there's something more valuable than thinking about it like, oh, I sacrificed my freedom. I sacrificed it, right? No, you made a compromise to your life, and it's not a sacrifice if you can still go rock climbing, but you still get clients. Now, this fear of visibility is deeply, deeply rooted in being conditioned to hide, okay? Conditioned to conform, conditioned to please, conditioned to perfect ourselves, conditioning, okay? So all of these things, when you conform to people's thoughts and expectations, when you people please, when you do perfectionism activities, all of these things are conditionings. Okay, so they condition you to hide your true self. And so a part of when you're truly showing up for you, you have to break through these fucking patterns. You have to break through this nasty reoccurring patterns that keep you in the same place. And essentially, you're basically wearing a mask, okay? And mask meaning that like you're pretending to be a character, you're pretending to have these qualities, and at a certain point, it might be okay for a short period of time. It might be useful for a short period of time, but at a certain point, like you're gonna be over it. It's like it's too much to hide. It's too much to kind of just like bottle it in and keep it in. And these masks are created to keep you safe. You know, you do it so that when you're conforming and when you're pleasing and when you're perfecting yourself, it just makes you more palatable, or you feel like it's more palatable. Very inauthentic, but palatable, right? And so these are, these are safety behaviors. These are coping mechanisms and part of the shadows. So why we call this a shadow work series is because, yeah, that's like the deep dark part of it. You know what I mean? It's like you don't want to be a fake bitch, but here you are. And you don't want to be, inauthentic, but here you are. And here you are like putting on this facade that isn't really true to you. And that's one of the things. It's like, well, I can't post on social media because I don't actually like what I'm putting out there because it doesn't represent who it is that I actually am. Or I don't want to create this thing because I feel like I need to create it in this way and for other people's consumption and how it's going to be perceived and what they want from me, but it's not actually what I want to create. Or I'm having this conversation that like I'm just making small talk, or I'm having this but I don't really want to because, right? Like fill in the blank in whatever, angle that comment makes sense to you. And we're always wearing a certain type of mask until we get a little bit older, and I think it does have to do a little bit with age where you just had enough of it. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't have time for this. I don't have time to like act and pretend. And like, you have those unruly aunts and unruly people in your household who are just like doing and saying whatever they want. And even if it's like really triggering and frustrating, they're being their authentic self. You know what I mean? They're being this like version of them that is like their actual truth. So, this goes in any direction because perhaps you truly have a fear that at the core of you, you're not a good person. And so like, why would you become, if you were a successful entrepreneur, this like evil guy? Like, why would you all of a sudden become that if like at the core of you, you didn't really trust yourself? If at the core of you, you didn't really believe that you would do good with your success? If at the core of you, you didn't believe that you truly had something that was worthwhile to be shared and to be seen? So now that's the shadow, my friend. The shadow of visibility. Like, do you see yourself in that way, in that identity that is negative and that is gross and that is like this version? Because maybe you do have these examples where people took up the mask and all of a sudden they're like really awful. Do you believe that about you? You know what I mean? It's like, do you actually understand who it is that you are at the core of yourself? And I'm not shaming you if you do or don't. I think we're all on our self-discovery journey. This is the Playground Podcast for exploration. We're doing all of this together and separately. That is part of the path and the process. But maybe you have this belief that at the core of you, you don't really know how to handle your success. The fear of being seen is not really a fear of failure. It's like really being able to see yourself. And maybe you don't understand what a successful person can look like. What a successful entrepreneur, a successful mother, a successful friend, a successful, again, fill in the blank of how it is that you're defining success as you're hearing this. So this visibility is, you gotta heal that. You know what I mean? Because all you're going to do is make fucking excuses of, oh, I couldn't do that because I didn't have time, or I couldn't do that because I don't have the resources, or I couldn't do that because I don't have the information. In our year, I'm recording this is 2024, but maybe you listen to this in 25 or above. In this year of 2024, you mean to tell me that there's no information on Google, that you couldn't Google yourself and get the answer directly onto your phone, your laptop, your computer? You mean to tell me that there's no public libraries with computers and internet where you are? We're talking from a place of so much privilege, and it's like, don't start to project your issues to something else that it's not, because your fear of being seen is that you are afraid of success. You're afraid to change your habits. You're afraid to do the things that is required of successful people, okay? To be consistent, to have devotion, to have the balls, to have the gall to have boundaries. All of these things are really hard. you know? And so if you believe that if your success means that all of a sudden that you're evil, that's an identity problem. That is an identity that is able to be shifted. And perhaps you're already on the path to shifting that, or you don't know how to shift that. That's over there. Okay, that's like a different conversation. But here, I'd love to leave you with the concept that perhaps your fear of being seen, the shadows of visibility and vulnerability, is not really that you are afraid of being seen, is that you're afraid to see yourself. Maybe it's time to stop pointing the finger at other people and point it to yourself. Do you fucking see yourself? Do you believe in yourself? Do you care about yourself? Are you devoted to you? It's not about others. That's the easy route when we say, what are they going to think? What are they going to say? They want me to, oh no, it must be so hard. There's like all of these phantom people putting on phantom expectations on you. It's so hard. Okay. Yeah, I am mocking you because it's stupid. You know what I mean? Like sometimes like you got to understand the stupidity in our thought process. Like it does help change our attitudes and our behaviors, our actions. But when we point it to ourselves, it's like maybe I'm just afraid of seeing myself as a successful fill in the blank. Maybe I'm doing just that. I want to be a good friend. I want to be a good partner. I want to be a good educator or an esthetician or a healer or a facilitator, whatever, right? Fill in the blank there. And then you show up, you do the thing, and then you're like, oh, my identity is malleable as long as I allow it to be. Especially if I have resources, especially if I have a way to make things manifest into my reality. All right? Take a deep breath, inhale, and exhale. So friends, if you're down to do shadow work with me in 2025, definitely join me for 6 weeks of deep inner healing. We meet every week to do our inner healing. We're doing all the deep, yucky stuff that actually gives us the best results at the end. We heal through our confidence, our perfectionism, our people pleasing. We truly understand where these wounds are rather than the surface way that we understand wounds and the surface way that we think something is the problem when there's something deeper. And I have an uncanny way of seeing right through the shit. So if you're trying to get some work done in 2025, I'm going to leave you a link in the show notes to join me in January. Or you could head to www.alwaysplay.org/shadow work, and you can enroll there. And friends, just remember, the world is your playground. And until next time, I will catch you soon.